In our last session, we loaded a drum kit and set up the metronome in Push. We even recorded a little bit, like this. Notice that we now have a lot of information to sort through, both on Push and on the screen. Let's look at the display on Push first. The yellow drum pads in the lower left are unchanged. 4 pads on the top have lit up blue, and a pad has lit up on the right. Those blue pads represent the 4 kick drums I recorded. You can press play to hear them play back. Notice that on playback, the white pad turns green, and a green dot follows playback. What we're looking at here is our 1 bar of music divided into 16th notes. If you have some previous experience reading traditional music notation, this will make sense right away. If not, don't worry, it's pretty simple to understand what's going on here. Each of those blue dots is a downbeat. In our measure of 4/4 time, we have 4 downbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each beat is being divided into 4 parts, so the whole measure has 16 parts. Now notice over on the right that the 16th note button is lit up on Push. That means that Push is displaying our beat with a 16th note subdivision. If I choose the 8th button, the display shows our 4 beats again, but now each beat only has 2 parts. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the whole measure of 4/4 has a subdivision of 8 instead of 16. There's a quarter note button as well. Now our 4 beats are displayed right next to each other. 1, 2, 3, 4. All this does not change the playback. It only changes the way the beat is displayed. Listen. Note that some of these buttons have a T next to them. That indicates a triplet subdivision, and we will get to that later. So on playback, that beat sounded the same tempo, only the display changed. If I wanted to change the tempo, I could, using the tempo control over here. Listen. So that's our 1 bar. What if we wanted 2? Boom. Now look at the display on Ableton on your screen and notice that the length has changed to 2. If I hit play, Ableton will play back my 1 bar of 4 kicks and 1 empty bar. If I just wanted to play the second bar, I could double tap it. Since we now have 2 bars being displayed on Push, let's fill in that 4 on the floor kick drum part for bar 2 manually. Just touch the pads where you want the kick drum to sound. Cool, right? Notice that they may be a little darker or a little lighter in color than the kicks we recorded with the metronome. That's because Push measured how hard we hit the pads and set the dynamic accordingly. When you enter manually, you don't get that degree of control. There is, however, the accent button over on the right. If you select this accent button and then put a kick in place, it will be a little darker in color and it will sound a little louder. Now let's go to the display in Ableton. Here we have grid settings too. You can right-click and select a grid setting from the menu. Or, this is my preferred method, you can hold down Control and touch the number 1 to increase the subdivision by 1, or the number 2 to decrease the subdivision. To toggle that triplet function on and off, hold Control and hit the number 3. And then to turn the grid completely off, hit Control and number 4. I'm going to set the grid to a 16th note subdivision. Take a look at the timeline in Clip View. If you don't see this MIDI editor window here, click Shift-Tab or click this box in the lower right. At the top of the window, you'll see bar 1 divided into 4 parts. Here's bar 1, beat 1, bar 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, and so on. Then bar 2, beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4. Don't forget, you can resize this window by clicking here and scrolling up and down to resize the display. If you don't see your kick drum, click over on the left side of the window and scroll up or down. You can further resize this grid by dragging left or right. Clicking this fold function here will hide the rows that don't have any information on them. I usually leave it on. Notice the kicks that I played in the first measure don't line up exactly with the grid. I can fix this by using the Quantize feature. Just right-click inside the grid and select Quantize Settings. You'll get a window like this that will allow me to control where the notes start on the grid, how long they are, and I can choose the subdivision to which the notes will snap. Further, I can adjust the amount of quantization that will take place. I'm going to put this up to 100% to make it snap exactly to the grid. But I caution, this will make it sound really mechanical, and I rather like the human feel of playing drum pads, so if it's a little bit late, a little bit early, that's okay. Look at the length and how it's changed. Also notice that the kicks are now aligned perfectly to the grid. They are still not at the same dynamic level as the kicks we manually entered in with push in measure 2. And to fix the volume of each of these kicks, I can drag the little red fader at the bottom of each one up. Each one of these is a volume control for the individual note. I can move them one at a time, or I can select them all and move them as a group. Notice that the color of the blue pad on push gets darker as I pull these up. I find that playing the drum pads with my fingers with push and then using the quantize function is the fastest way to get the beat that I'm hearing in my head into the software. You can manually draw these notes in using the mouse and just click in the grid where you'd like the note to appear, although it does get kind of time consuming. The note will appear the length of the grid setting that I have. So, for example, I have it set to 16th note right now, so the note that I just put in is 1/16th note in length. If I change the grid to 1/4, the note will appear as a quarter note. When dealing with drums, this doesn't matter so much because drum sounds, by their very nature, are short. But when you get into the keyboard, string sounds, and other instruments that can have duration to their pitch, it makes a big difference. A valuable keyboard shortcut to know is the letter B. Type the letter B to toggle this pencil tool on and off. When the pencil tool is active, you can click notes right into this window. They will appear on push and on the screen. With the pencil off, you can select notes and move them around and change the velocity. Okay, that was quite a bit. Here's a few more show me questions. Be ready to do any of these things for me to get credit for this lesson. I need you to be able to change the length of a clip using push, manually enter in notes using push, quantize notes that you've played using Ableton and using push, change the quantize settings, also be able to change the grid snap size value from 16th, 8th note, or quarter note using both push and the MIDI editing window. Good luck!